Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 2021 Shelburne Multicultural Event. Happy Canadian Multicultural Day, everyone. My name is Althea Ali, founder of the Shelburne Multicultural Event. I'm so happy to see you all today. Canadian Multicultural Day was first celebrated on June 27, 2003. It was designated as an opportunity to reflect on both the contributions of Canada's numerous cultural communities and the values that we all share. It's important to celebrate Canadian Multicultural Day right here in Dufferin County because it instills value, tradition, and a sense of purpose and belonging in our community, and our community members, and especially our youth, who are our future. I'm also happy to announce that Dufferin County has proclaimed June 27th to be Canadian Multicultural Day.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sarah Robinson, and I'm the curator for the Museum of Dufferin. We'd like to begin by respectfully acknowledging that Dufferin County resides within the traditional territory and ancestral lands of the Tyontontari, the Ottawadoran, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe peoples. We also acknowledge that various municipalities within the County of Dufferin reside within the treaty lands named under the Haldimand Deed of 1784 and two of the Williams Treaties of 1818. Treaty 18, the Nottawasaga Purchase, and Treaty 19, the Adjutants Treaty. These traditional territories upon which we live and learn are steeped in rich Indigenous history and traditions. It is with this statement that we declare to honor and respect the past and present connection of Indigenous peoples with this land, its waterways and resources. On June 1st, the Pride flag and the multicultural flag were raised at the Museum of Dufferin. As we were unable to gather together as a community in public due to COVID-19, we'd like to share that video with you now. You'll notice in the video that after the flags were raised to full mast, all three were brought down to half mast, and Jim Waddington, founder of Celebrate Your Awesome, spoke the numbers 215. This is to honor and remember the 215 children who never came home from the Kamloops Residential School. As more graves of Indigenous children are being found around the country at residential school sites, it is a stark reminder of the pain suffered by Indigenous communities historically and in present day. June is National Indigenous History Month. There are many Indigenous authored resources for us to learn from. The Museum of Dufferin has outlined several on our social media channels and our website. At this point, I'd like to pass it to Nancy Malik from the Museum of Dufferin.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are very fortunate to have a guest join us at this moment, our Solicitor General, Sylvia Jones. Sylvia.
Thanks very much, Nancy, and thank you for inviting me to join you virtually today. Although this is the second year in a row we have had to come together in this format, I am very much looking forward to a time when we can all be together enjoying this event in person. In 2018, Althea had a great idea to celebrate the different cultures that our community now calls home. We each have our own backgrounds, traditions, food, arts, crafts, music, and celebrations. Althea's idea was to develop a day where we could collectively share our personal history and discover commonalities between neighbors. It's fantastic to see the growth of this event each and every year because of the dedication of the organizing committee, but also because our community is looking for opportunities like this to connect, to learn, to understand, and to grow. I think this speaks to positive changes in our community as we expand and grow and welcome new families and individuals. Every level of government, be it federal, provincial, or municipal, has a responsibility to ensure our policies, legislation, bylaws, programs, and services are inclusive for everyone. But multiculturalism is more than just a word at the top of policy documents. It's a commitment to mutual respect and equality. Everyone deserves to live in a community that values diverse perspectives and celebrates different cultures, and where families are not afraid to take an evening walk together. Local grassroots community events like Shelburne's Multicultural Day have a huge impact on our entire community. Society-level advancements cannot simply come from Queen's Park. They must come from all of us. To the award winners being announced later in the program, congratulations for your own outreach and ability to progress. To Althea and your team that helped put this event together, thank you for your commitment, time, and energy. Thank you. Merci. Miigwech.
Thanks very much, Sylvia. Next, on behalf of the Museum of Dufferin, I'd like to talk a little bit about the Museum of Dufferin and our current efforts to expand and incorporate diversity into our artifact and archival collections. I'm just going to share a presentation with you now. So many people often think that museums only collect antiques. We have thousands of items dating back to the 1800s, but we also have items that date to 2021. The collections mandate of the Museum of Dufferin is to collect and interpret the history of Dufferin County. But history was made yesterday, it was made an hour ago, and it's being made right now as our community comes together to celebrate Multicultural Day. And so items don't need to be old to be donated to our museum collection, but they do need to tell a story. Here are some examples of artifacts and archival records that were recently accepted into our collection. On the slide now, you'll see that in 2019, we had posters, flyers, and brochures from Celebrate Your Awesome donated to the archives. Celebrate Your Awesome is now an annual event in Orangeville celebrating pride and diversity. In 2021, Imam Yahya Solomon, leader of the Muslims of Dufferin, donated his gutra and bisht that he had worn in the first ever Eid ul-Fitr prayers held in the Dufferin area. And in 2021, Alexis Quilliton donated her original work of art titled A Blooming Community, which was awarded the Juror's Choice Award in the Solidarity in My Community exhibition presented by the Dufferin County Canadian Black Association. And so this is an open call. We're collecting our community now. We're asking for items that tell the story of diversity and inclusion in Dufferin County. Thanks very much. And at this point, I'm going to pass it back to Althea.
That's some amazing contributions. I'm looking forward to see what else is being contributed to the museum to showcase our heritage and our culture. At this time, we will start our panel discussion. I'd like to introduce our panelists today. We have MP Cal Seaback, Dufferin County Warden Darren White, Shelburne Deputy Mayor Steve Anderson, Caledon Councillor Joanna Downey, and community leaders Jim Waddington, Nicole Jeffrey, Harleen Torr, and Soha Solomon.
Wonderful. I'd like to know, MP Kyle Seaback, why do you think it's important to celebrate our cultures?
Well, I think that no one is born with hate in their heart. And what we often find is that this is a learned experience from people, which often I think comes through ignorance of other cultures, ignorance of people who may look a little bit different than we look. So by celebrating and sharing the richness of various cultures and various religious beliefs, I think what we're doing is we're breaking down those barriers. We're breaking down the ignorance barrier that can lead to misunderstanding and in extreme circumstances lead to hate, which is why multiculturalism and events like this are so important to showcase our multicultural communities and for everyone to get the chance to know each other just a little bit better.
Thank you.
And our next question is for panelist Harleen. What is something valuable that you have learned from a culture that is not your own?
So something really valuable I've learned from a culture that's not my own is the importance of cleansing. So I go to Lakehead, which is in Thunder Bay. And in my first year of law school, I became really connected with an Indigenous elder. And she kind of taught me the importance of cleansing your mind and body daily. And she sent me a whole smudge kit and she taught me how to smudge. And it's a beautiful thing. And it's a practice that I've incorporated into my everyday life. And I learned a lot from her and about Indigenous culture, and I also noticed the similarities between my own culture and the Indigenous culture. So, yeah, thanks.
That's amazing.
Mhm. This question is for Deputy Mayor Steve and Jim Waddington. Why is it important that we continue to adapt our language to be more inclusive? For example, the importance of using inclusive pronouns. Steve, would you like to go first?
It's really reflective of the time that we're in, right? And as you mentioned, and we heard our Solicitor General and MP Kyle Seaback, the importance of recognizing and celebrating each other and what we represent. And so I think having these inclusive pronouns really strives to accomplish that goal. At the end of the day, we have to respect people in their authentic selves. I think for many years, many of us have had to sort of hide our authentic selves, whether at the workplace, in our social spaces, etc. And I think this is the acceptance of these inclusive pronouns serves as liberation, I believe, for the individuals that are involved. And it's also a learning lesson for the community. So I think from that perspective, it's very, very valuable.
Wonderful. And Jim, you're muted, sir.
There we are. Thank you. I think it's a matter of involvement or evolvement, I should say. Years gone by, it was he and she, and that was it. And as you can see by other words that have been used here tonight, today, is that we are looking at a more diverse community. And in doing so, we have to respect each individual as they wish to be recognized. So if you look at, for example, the 2S LGBTQIA plus, that's a lot. And a lot of those individuals relate to specific pronouns these days. I guess the best example I could give would be, I no longer say, do you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend? I say, do you have a partner? Mm-hmm. And so that sort of doesn't, it creates a more even balance. And I think that's all of us are looking towards some type of balance and equality throughout not only Dufferin County, but our world.
Yes, thank you.
And our next question is for Soha and Nicole. And it's just piggybacking off of the last question. And it's, why would this benefit the community to adapt to these languages and be more inclusive? Nicole, did you want to go first?
Yes, thank you. So it's very important for us to adapt to a more inclusive language. Over the years, when you think about it, we want to, if we're going into a more diverse setting, we want to be more diverse, then we have to address these things. So what really sticks out for me, that if you're more inclusive, you set a stage of respect for everybody. You also open up your mind and just have a willingness to understand. And then it also helps you to not only learn more about your culture, but somebody else's. So being inclusive in our language is definitely important if we want to ensure that we are making sure that it is a completely diverse community.
Absolutely, I agree with that, Nicole. It does create that sense of safety for the community to step out and be more authentic and be more themselves and learn from each other. So, did you want to take a turn in answering?
Yes, thank you so much. I'd just like to start off by saying I'm really, really excited and honored to be on this panel discussion, and I'd like to welcome the viewers. Just bouncing back off that question and what Nicole said, it's really, it benefits the community in a number of ways and people as a whole. So the first thing is really showing your community that you respect and you care about them, and you're willing to maybe step outside of your comfort zone at times to be able to make them feel included and make them feel respected and comfortable in the atmosphere and the environment that you and your community create. So, everybody captured some really amazing points, but I think the main thing is to show people that you care for them. To show that, from human to human, I respect you and I understand you. And I know that it's hard for you, but I'm going to be one of those people to make it easier for you and to make you feel like this is a world where you can be in and you can be happy and be your authentic self. Thank you.
Lovely.
That's amazing. So I'm so happy we have young leaders like yourselves.
Absolutely. This question is for Warden Darren White and Councillor Downey. Diversity in community business works if all team members can share their opinion without fear of negative consequence. What can you offer to those that encourage an open discussion? Councillor Downey, would you please go first?
Thank you. And thank you for having me here to participate. I love this group and I love listening to Soha speak as well. She's just so happy and bright all the time. So as far as, the community, I think it's just incumbent upon continuing to have conversations and using the platforms that we all share to have those conversations and to keep to keep those conversations open and receptive so that people feel comfortable asking questions of different community members, being open and having the opportunity to be curious and ask questions that they're unsure of and to be able to say, you know what, I don't know the answer to that. And I'm not really sure how to have that conversation about pronouns or about your religion or, and we just need to keep events like this today going so that, members of our community have an opportunity to learn in this beautiful platform where people are here willing to answer questions for them.
Thank you. Warden White.
Thank you, Nancy, and certainly I'm honored to be asked to be involved in this again this year. And, I would say as politicians, as community leaders, as government, we have an obligation really to set the stage for business and to help them out wherever we can. And diversity and other issues certainly are something that we really need to take the lead on. Many small businesses face enormous challenges already. So trying to educate themselves on how to deal with things like pronouns and how to deal with things like what's going on currently with Indigenous peoples in Canada. Those types of things are, sometimes out of their wheelhouse a little bit. And if we as government can sort of set the stage and put in place educational resources, advice, support, those things to make it easier for our business, that's exactly what we should do. And as an example, I'd offer, even right now, given what's going on with the Indigenous children, with the discovery of 751 graves just the other day, and calls for Rethinking Canada Day, our government, Dufferin County, has put out information for small business just this week on how to explain to your customers maybe why you're not doing the whole rah-rah thing, or how to celebrate Canada, but at the same time acknowledge different races, colors, creeds, multiculturalism, the LGBTQ community. So we've tried to put those resources in place so that people can go and find that information readily and easily. And I want to certainly thank our staff for doing that.
Thank you.
Okay, our next question is for Councillor Downey. Warden White and Deputy Mayor Steve Anderson. How would you advocate for diversity, equity, and inclusion with members of the community who don't understand its importance? Deputy Mayor, would you like to start?
Sure, I'll take it. I think first and foremost, you have to lead by example in your own life, right? I think before you start going out and suggesting to people how things should be done, you really have to be leading by example. So I think, that action speaks for itself, hopefully, because I think what it does is it builds credibility. So when you're actually out there saying these things, people could look back at your own actions and say, this actually makes sense. But to address the question specifically, what could you do, especially when people are uneasy, they're not sure, is to take it step by step and slowly, right? And understand, there's a saying that you have to meet people where they are. And I think that's what we have to do as leaders and advocates in the community. As much as we would want everybody to be at the same level by way of knowledge and understanding, the reality is that's not the case. And so it's incumbent upon us to be patient, but yet it's also incumbent upon the individual themselves to also educate themselves. I think it's a bit unfair to expect leaders and advocates in the community to bear that burden of trying to educate the community on these issues. And so I think we all have an equal responsibility, but I think the overall sentiment I'll make is that we have to be patient in this work, because I think what we've realized is that these changes are not going to happen overnight.
I agree. I agree with that. And it is work of the heart. Warden White?
Thanks. I think one of the biggest things we can do is be willing and be ready to have the conversation with people who maybe don't understand why some of the things that are happening need to happen. A lot of it, I found oftentimes that just, sitting over a coffee, chatting with somebody, telling them your perspective often is able to change the minds of people who are really honestly willing to change or willing to absorb. So I think education, the willingness to have the conversation, even difficult ones, even in your own families, as I've experienced with some members of my family, so the conversations can be difficult, it can be emotional, but an honest willingness to have it is a great step forward.
Councillor Downey?
Thank you. I'm not sure I have much to add to wise leaders and their comments. I think that they're quite right. And, we have to utilize the platforms that we have to keep having the conversations as we have to be able to be patient in those conversations and, invite people into the conversation and to just continue having the conversation. And if we don't have the answers, to help our community members find them. We don't always have the answers, but we will continue to do the work and walk the walk, as Steve mentioned. We have to live that in our own lives and within our own organizations as municipalities as well. And, giving our staff, our staff that are frontline, giving them the tools that they need to be able to serve the community in an inclusive way and in a respectful way. So I think that, we all have that role, and knowing our role and bringing it to the table and just, doing it patiently. I think that's probably that's a huge takeoff, is to do it patiently, because as you said, this work doesn't happen overnight. And a lot of these things, evolve over generations. So it's, we keep working at it every day.
I believe that's absolutely true. We do each have our part to play in this.
This next question, I'm going to go panelist to panelist to answer. Culture is the characteristics and knowledge of a particular group of people, encompassing language, religion, cuisine, social habits, music, and arts. Can you share with us some of those unique characters from your culture or another culture that you are proud of? I'm going to start with Kyle Seaback. Sorry about the motorcycle in the back.
That's okay. I have a neighbor who's cutting their lawn, so that's what I'm listening to right now. I'm going to just talk a little bit about, for me, from my roots. I was born and raised in Brampton, which was a small town at the time in 1970 when I was born. And it was, I would say, probably 98% Caucasian. And if you look at Brampton now, Brampton is a wonderful cultural mosaic where people from all kinds of every corner of the world has come to make it a home. And what we're seeing now throughout the riding of Dufferin-Caledon is the exact same transformational process. And the amazing thing for me has been this, whether I'm having chai in someone's house, whether I'm going to enjoy tandoori chicken or jerk chicken, what I've learned is having these conversations and meals with people from various cultural communities is deep down, we are all the same. We've all come to Canada at some point in our lives or our history because we wanted a better life. We wanted a safe place for our children to grow up and raise their families. And I think for me, I'm not going to talk about a particular culture. I'm going to talk about the amazing cultural mosaic of this country. But it's something I don't think we can take for granted. We are starting to see some frictions in some of the things that are happening, and it's incumbent upon all of us, I think, to try, especially as political leaders, to make sure we are showing that inclusivity and the desire for all of our cultures that make up this great country to embrace each other.
Wonderful, thank you. Jim, could you unmute yourself, please, sir? Thank you.
That I have done. And my volume is correct.
Perfect.
Anyhow, I think that one of our biggest scenarios, certainly with myself and our 2S LGBTQ IA plus community, is that we are now beginning to be included as opposed to excluded. We're part of the conversation. We're part of the day-to-day life. Imagine if all of the panel members here and those that are watching, that we all become the norm, that we all become equal, which I believe we are. No one here is any better than anyone else. And I think that's something that I certainly strive for. I guess that's one of the reasons why our group, or our festival, if you will, to highlight and to celebrate, is to celebrate the fact that all of us are awesome. Not just individually. We do highlight pride, as this month is, but at the same time, we want to include diversity in this. And in diversity, we need inclusion, because Dufferin County is made up of so many different cultures, so many different backgrounds, religion. And I have to say, with COVID-19, it's been amazing to just tap at all of these, because you have time. You have time to do it. And I have enjoyed the journey with, like everyone here. I've sat on other panels with them. The enthusiasm and the motivation, the strength, and the willingness to share and the willingness to accept each other is, to me, a key.
Thank you,
I
Jim.
agree.
Sylvia, I'm going to get you to answer this. There you are.
Oh, so my history, our family came to Canada because I jokingly say we are refugees because of circumstances, potato famine, for those of you who love your history. And the ability now to see how things are evolving and how much we learn from each other, right? So I grew up in a farm family where we never had fish because fish wasn't what we grew. So when we learn from each other, when we have the ability to be beneficiaries, if you will, of other people's traditions, love, music, arts, and food, of course, always food, because so many of our celebrations center around the ability to share with each other. I just think we're pretty blessed to as leaders, be able to partake in that, but also learn from it.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sylvia. Harleen.
Thanks. So I was born and brought up in Canada, but my family is from Punjab in India. And I come from a family of farmers. So my grandfather was a farmer, my dad was a farmer before immigrating to Canada. And as many of you may know, last year marked kind of the start of the farmers' protests against the agricultural bills in India, which kind of deregularized the farming industry and opened it up to exploitation. So this especially affects small scale farmers, similar to my own family farm in India. So farming is such an essential part of my culture and where I come from. And many people in Punjab make an income off of farming, and the three bills essentially destroy the means of making a living. And that's why the farmers are still sitting in the capital city even today, months later, still trying to get the Indian government to repeal the bill. So I'm really proud of the resilience that they have to sit there and protest. And I hope that we can all work together and raise awareness and keep supporting them. And I feel like that's also what diversity and inclusion is, like supporting each other when in times of difficulties. So yeah, thanks. And thanks, Althea, for giving me the opportunity to speak today on such an amazing panel.
Thank you, Harleen. Soha.
Wow, my fellow panelists shared a lot of really great things from their culture. Now I come from, so my dad is from Egypt, my mom's from Afghanistan, so I have two very similar yet two very different cultures. But one thing that, I'll say one thing about each culture. So in Afghani culture, I really take pride in the generosity and hospitality that they have. Really, you know, whenever you go to someone's home who's Afghan, they treat you like you've just known them for many years. They are very hospitable. They give you the best of the best, and they treat you with utmost respect and great manners. So that's something that I'm very proud of. And, you know, as a community leader, I try to implement and practice and advocate for and promote and amplify in all the work that I do. So that's something I'm really proud of. And in Egyptian culture, I really love the food. So that's something I'm really proud of. I mean, of course, everybody, when they think of Egypt, the first thing that clicks is like camels, desert, and pyramids. But, you know, of course, there's a lot more to them than that. And one of the things is the food. I feel that it's prepared in very unique ways. And you know, I really hope that one day we can all go and try it together. So it's really amazing and has wonderful blend of spices and comes together very nicely. Thank you.
Thank you, Soha. Nicole.
All right. So for myself, I'm Canadian born, but my background is Guyanese. So I think Althea can relate. And what I really like about that culture and what really stands out for me for that culture is the ethnic groups. So right from the bat, as a young child, I was exposed to diversity, inclusion, equity, because that's what my parents grew up in. And so they have 6 different ethnic groups, from Indigenous to East Indian, African, Portuguese, European, and you know, it just goes on, Chinese, it just goes on. And it is a beautiful mosaic of ethnicities, really and truly, just a tapestry of different ethnicities. And what really stands out, just like Soha was saying, is the food, because I was getting exposure to all the different foods from that culture. So I'm very grateful to experience that, and I grew into that. And my family has always been about diversity and accepting others.
How wonderful. Thanks, Nicole. Warden White.
Thanks, Nancy. I was born in a place similar to Kyle, but on an opposite extreme. It was all white people. It was in a small mining town, single industry, isolated mining town in northern Labrador. You know, we had a lot of Inuit and Naskapi, Montagnais around in the area, but generally the community was white. And I didn't know a lot about my culture other than that. I sort of learned the general history of my family, with a lot of Scotch and Irish influences. But only 8 years ago, I learned that my paternal grandfather was half Mi'kmaq. He hid that from the family. He hid that from his own children. Nobody knew until, and he's passed now, but after he passed, some routine paperwork, we found this. So so now I'm trying to develop and understand that part of my heritage as well. And it's taken me down an interesting road. But certainly the biggest influence is the Newfoundland and Labrador. And it comes from a province where there has historically been a lot of economic challenge, a lot of hardship, very up and down, all over the place economy, a lot of exodus for employment. And as a result, it's the biggest thing I take from that is still the compassion and the friendliness of the people, and the willingness to experience and to learn. When I moved to Ontario, I moved to Toronto, came from this tiny little white town, and I could have gone in a direction which wouldn't be very friendly, but what I chose instead was to experience all of these cultures that I had no experience with before. And as a result, I have some great friends from different places, and I've chosen to weave sort of their experiences through the I guess the tapestry of what my culture is. And I think that I think that made me a better person. So kindness, compassion, and certainly uniqueness. I mean, where else in the world exactly are you going to be made an honorary member of a province by drinking a shot of screech and kissing a codfish while reciting a limerick? So yeah, it's very, very diverse, but different, certainly.
Thank you, Warden. Johanna.
Thanks, Nancy. Also, like many of the panelists, Canadian born to two immigrant parents. My 23andMe profile is a very long list, from Iberian to Nigerian to Finland, Native American Indian. I have 1% Italian, which is fantastic because we won the soccer game yesterday. So I run the full spectrum. And if you're wondering how that is even possible, it goes back to the Cane River Creole people in Louisiana, which is where my father is from. And obviously that was a port, and a high, like all of the slave trade was happening in the southern states. And that's where our family comes from. And the interesting part about it, as we kind of move forward into, the conversations we're having today, is that the Creole people were oftentimes predominantly French speaking, referred to as gens de couleur libre, which is liberated people of color. And that community in itself was often called upon to work as diplomats and bridge the gaps between communities of color and non. So it's kind of an interesting parallel to run in these conversations that we have today, because oftentimes people, maybe not knowing my background or looking at me and considering me as a white woman. Obviously, I walk in a white woman world, and this is how I am received by the world. So people often say or ask me questions that they might not ask Nicole as a woman of color. So I can identify, but I don't live the same life that Nicole lives, or Althea, or Soha, or Harleen. And so, it's kind of an interesting thing, because people will maybe have different conversations with me than they would with them, but I have the opportunity to bridge those gaps and have those conversations with people.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Mr. Anderson.
Yeah, if I may, I'll say two quick things off the bat, I guess, before I answer the question. One is, when I heard Kyle speak about tandoori chicken and jerk chicken, it told me one thing. This is a man that can handle his spices. So congratulations to you, Kyle. That's number one. Number two, I want to pick up on what Soha said about the hospitality of the Egyptian or Afghani people. And I could say I experienced that firsthand. When I was knocking on doors during the municipal campaign, I actually knocked on their door And without even knowing me and meeting me for the very first time, and this is no word of a lie, they opened their door and there they were having a full platter of food and drinks and tea, inviting me to come in. I met the entire family. And this was the very first time that they met me. So it's really refreshing to see people who are walking, I guess, the talk, or put the action behind the talk. And so when she says that, she really means it, because I've seen that firsthand. With respect to cultures, languages, and cuisine, I'm a proud Canadian. I was born here in Canada. All my family's from Jamaica. And as we approach Canada Day, I'm not afraid to say that I'm a proud Canadian, that we should celebrate that despite the challenges and the differences and the things that we know we have to do to be better. Despite all that, I'm still proud to be called a Canadian. The opportunity to learn about different cultures, languages, and cuisines, I think it's important to say this. This is not by accident, right? This is intentional. It has to be intentional. And so this gives me an opportunity to give a nod to Althea and the Mod and Jim and Soha and everybody here on this panel as advocates who have made these opportunities possible, where I could go into a safe space and taste the different cuisines and listen to the different music and learn about the different cultures. Again, all intentional. The one commonality, even though we're there celebrating these different cultural backgrounds, is that we're all still proud to be called Canadian and are grateful to live in this country. So for me, again, it's not by accident, it's intentional. And I've had the privilege to enjoy the differences and yet experience the similarities that we all have.
Thank you, Steve. Althea.
Now I'm so excited to, I apologize, announce Jamal. My throat is going on here.
Sorry,
I apologize. Oh my goodness.
That's okay.
Sorry. I'm so excited and happy to announce Jamal, who will be reciting a poem for us on diversity and inclusion. Jamal is an award-winning poet and an arts educator. Please help me in welcoming Jamal.
Greetings, y'all. Thank you very much for having me here today. What an honor to celebrate multiculturalism here in a country that obviously, at least through statistics, we recognize the value of multiculturalism and having, the experience to be among so many various and diverse communities. I grew up in Guyana, South America. I was born in Toronto, but my dad took me to Guyana to experience his culture. And when I came back here, I had very much a Caribbean cultural expression, and fitting back in was, I didn't know anything else other than the Caribbean Guyanese expression of culture. But coming here and being at a certain time back in Canada when there was an influx of various communities, and living in those communities where there were high numbers of diverse families, it grew my love for this land, and it grew my appreciation for this land. That being said, I have a poem that I'll present to you today. The poem is titled Medicine, and it was created based on listening to an Indigenous elder when I had a personal and private conversation with her. She mentioned one thing to me that helped create this poem, and that thing I can relate to you, and I will share it with you in the poem. The poem is titled Medicine. I hope you enjoy. She said, "Our diversity is our medicine." She said, "Our diversity is our medicine, gathering all the beauty in the world in one unifying sentence." And how could I challenge her? When I have sampled a taste of utopian togetherness, trading in a lens of ignorance for a culture of multiple expressions, narratives, and languages when I was younger, I never spoke about how intense I studied the human condition. My earliest memories begin with my father's Guyanese shoulders embracing my mother in moonlight shuffle, as if they had memorized a legendary routine from a champion figure skating couple when he would halt his waltz, kneel to the ground, and tuck us in under cold blankets that warmed our bodies from the cold floor, hoping to make sense of complex emotions shown by world travelers and globetrotters, watching moments of contemplation flash like brainstorms only to transform into revolutionary actions that would ultimately alter my understanding of what it feels to know when one is home. Those were the days when we first arrived to Ottawa. Shelters becoming natural habitats until this glowing city of growing capital helped us back on our feet in these days of decades past. I would meet faces attached to stories that carried history from all across Earth's marvelous landscapes. It was on Elmira Drive and Irish Street, where I crossed cultures from everywhere. I found lodging in the communities that shared the same longing as me. Spoken in a language of triumph and resiliency, witnessed in the silent pride of a Cambodian man's smile, who hides the pain of all that he and his wife left behind to find new hope in a country that promises a better life. He shows no teeth, but his grin is chin high and his eyes beam with glory, as if the future told him that eventually it would all be worth the journey. A language that reflects the ancient family lineage recited from a Somali mother's call for her children, playing chase in the twilight of August Eve, as if tribe and sibling had the same meaning. She sings out names from the corner of her mouth like I've never heard before. Samatar, Abdi Fattah, Muhammad, Nasra. And all at once I can taste the camel milk flow from the Horn of Africa, sweeping peninsulas to exotic islands in the Caribbean, where Haitian diasporic doorsteps play zouk and compa, and elders' hands fry fish and chicken drumsticks, sizzling stoves blowing smoke through windows that would invite the auditory senses into a euphoria of nostalgia and hospitality. When the Creole escapes their throats, you can hear the resistance still chanting freedom songs from the motherland, mixed with the chance to start a new renaissance on the frontiers of a liberated land. It didn't take much for us to celebrate the everyday. And when special occasions came, ceremonies to honor joyous commemorations, we danced the Lebanese dabka as if it was taught to us through breath and lung ritual that matched the rhythm of the sacred lute and tabla, or at least we watched in awe as men with frames the size of goalposts dip low, then leap beyond whatever struggles their fellow countrymen face back home. All that I was searching for, from subtle sunrise, midday sunshine, and moving well beyond shimmering sunset, could be captured in these intense interactions of harmonious rapture. Place where my heart could be embedded in the art of solidarity. And my understanding of our collective Canadian identity unraveled in that single moment of affinity when she said to me, "Our diversity is our medicine." I will never know what memories she carried beneath her skin that would lead her to share such welcoming empathy. An Indigenous elder who spoke truth beyond her own history of genocide that has robbed her of her rightful claim to reconcile home. Maybe it was her native traditions that reminded her that we are one once we defeat the walls of ignorance and isolation. But in one unifying sentence, with wisdom beyond my experience, she showed me that if we ever want to know how deep our beauty and empathy resides, we shall see it in the hope, the healing, the stories that lie in a newcomer's eyes. Thank you very much for having me. This is an event that I was looking forward to, a gathering that I was looking forward to. There's lots to contemplate on and think about, but at least we can still share space, facilitate discussion, and open our hearts to our differences and come together on our commonalities. So thank you very much. I hope you have a great weekend. And I really appreciate being here with y'all today.
Thank you, Jamal. That was an incredible poem. And next, we have our awards. In recognition of Canadian Multicultural Day, the Multicultural Award Committee would like to recognize the following individuals and organizations for their proven track record in promoting diversity, inclusion, and equity. Our award winners are Gabriella Spencer. Gabriella Spencer is a social activist award winner, and she resides she assists in the high school for the Black chapter and the GSA. Next. Okay. Our next winner is Janae Beckford. She was an integral part of the Center Dufferin District High School Black chapter, and she's one of the main organizers for the high school's very first and subsequent Black History Month celebrations. Next, we have Sienna Thomas. Sienna was the organizer of the Black Lives Matter March awareness in Orangeville. She's an advocate for the BIPOC community. We have Lola, organized the displays for Black History Month, celebrating heroes from the Black community, and increased awareness of the past and present struggles of the Black community through music. And we have Sherwin Stephens. He provides an opportunity for youth by bringing basketball to Dufferin County. He has given additional alternatives for kids ranging from ages 5 to 18 years old. And we have Yahya Solomon, leader of the Muslim community in Dufferin County. His passion is embracing and celebrating multiculturalism. And last, we have Muslims of Dufferin. Through their religious and cultural services, classes, and events, and local awareness, they celebrate culture in our community. Congratulations to all of our winners. I must say we had an overwhelming response of nominees, and it was quite hard for our committee to choose. So thank you all for stepping up and being leaders and supporters in our community. And I wish you the best, and I wish that you would continue this and inspire others to do so as well.
And right now, MP Kyle Seaback would like to say a few words.
Oh, good. There, I couldn't get my video going there for a moment. So, look, I just want to thank and recognize all the members of the committee that worked on these awards: Althea, Deputy Mayor Steve Anderson, Joanna Downey, Jim Waddington, Harleen Tour, Soha Soliman. Everybody worked so hard to bring this to fruition, and of course, I want to congratulate all the winners and thank you so much for what you're doing to promote diversity in our communities. It is something that we all have to take a role on. And I just want to congratulate everyone for working so hard, making this such a success and a really useful step on the way to full inclusion that we should have all across our society right here in Dufferin-Caledon, and of course all across Canada as well.
Thank you. We really appreciate that. And I would like to thank all our panelists that have joined us today. Wonderful words, wonderful lessons. And I think it's up to everyone now to listen. Listen to what's being said. Althea.
I want to thank the MOD for their partnership in making this event successful today and making this event even happen. And thank you to our panelists. Thank you to our poet Jamal and our guests. And last but not least, our sponsors for celebrating and recognizing our different cultures and recognizing the value in sharing. I look forward to an exciting in-person event next year, hopefully. Please be sure to check out the Multicultural website for more details on any upcoming events and events from our community celebrating multiculturalism. Thank you again, everyone.
Yeah, sorry, you have merchandise available on your site as well.
I do. Thank you, Nancy. I completely forgot about that. Missed that. This year, we have launched our apparel. Now, our apparel has our logo on it, which is the flag, and I'm sort of wearing it today. So all of the proceeds from the sale of the apparel goes to our community initiatives for diversity and inclusion, and for our youth, to help them find their way as well. So if you would like to log on to the website and if you would like to purchase it, please do so. And I ask that if you do purchase something, if you can share a picture or a video of yourself with the apparel, and you're more than welcome to put a few lines in about what multiculturalism means to you.
And would you mind giving that website one more time, please?
Ooh, it is the multicultural website. Nancy, now you're putting me on the spot here. I have to find the website. The multicultural website is it says altheaalley.wixsite.com/multicultural event. And when you click on it, there is a button that says Our Store. You can click on that and you will see all of our apparel.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone, very much. And please always remember to be kind.